So I read A Room of One's Own for the second time, and this is what I think about it. Hi, I'm Zita Bano and welcome to my channel. So A Room of One's Own is basically an extended essay by Virginia Woolf, which is based on the 2 lectures that she delivered on women and fiction. If I am to simplify what this book is about, I would say that this book is about women, literature and money, but that would be unfair to this literary marvel. This book is basically an explanation of a woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. So Virginia Woolf, in the very beginning, she renounces her identity and urges reader to call her Mary. So Mary reads history and finds out forced marriages and wife beating. She looks at great men in the likes of Napoleon and Mussolini only to find out their contempt for women. And she comes across comments on women in literature such as the best woman was intellectually the inferior of the worst men. She reads poems written by women and sees their raw frustration because of their domesticity, the expectations society have from them, and then their inferior position. She also talks about Bronte and Jane and how Jane was ashamed of writing Pride and Prejudice and she used to hide her manuscripts when somebody was coming. And she also talks about this imaginary sister of Shakespeare, how society would not have given her the opportunity to write in the likes of Shakespeare. The final conclusion is that money and separation from domesticity is important for women to write fiction. Okay, what do I think about this book? As in the beginning of this video, I said that I have read this book twice. So the first time that I read this book, I was 21 years old and I was not really subjected to the prejudices or the stereotyping that happens usually in the society because I grew up in a protected environment. But now that I have experienced the word, unfortunately, this book resonated well with me. First thing that I noticed about this book was, of course, Virginia Woolf's mastery over wordplay and her absolutely fantastic analogies. One thing that I do want to mention here is that when I was reading this book, I felt that this book was the politest criticism that I have ever read, especially feminist literature. All the feminist literature that I have read, especially the modern feminist literature, it's pretty much out there. Talking about such dense subjects such as sexism or patriarchy, they are very blunt. That was not the case with Virginia Woolf. She was extremely polite with her words. In the last chapter, she tries to encourage women to become writers of all sorts, not necessarily fiction. But she seems to be oblivious of the fact that women during those times, they did not have the money, they did not have the privilege, they did not have the time to spare in order to write fiction or, as a matter of fact, do anything else beside domestic chores. Talking about the last chapter, if I am to give any critique of this book, although I love this book, I would say that the word of encouragement were not enough. And just to explain what I'm saying, this is the only paragraph in which she is trying to encourage women. She's trying to tell women that there are opportunities available now and now they can write fiction. I mean, 112 pages and one paragraph of encouragement, is that enough? Lastly, do I recommend this book and who I recommend this book to? As much as I love this book, I would not recommend this book to an average reader. If you want to read A Room of One's Own because of its hype, then I would suggest otherwise. And by no means I am trying to discourage you, but I have noticed that if you start reading a book and you don't finish that book, it sort of demotivates you. And I want you to become a reader. I want you to be able to read on a consistent basis. It's almost an year that I've made this channel and I have never been gender biased when I'm recommending books, but this time I would say that I would recommend this book to women more than men. I am in no shape or form trying to stereotype, but I think a woman will be able to enjoy and appreciate the complexity of this book more than a man. And again, it's just my opinion. If you want to read this book, go ahead and read this book, but keep in mind that this book is complex, this book is dense, and this book is difficult. So yeah, that is it. See you next time with another book.